Father Louis Skirty with Friends of the Word, the Weekday Word. Thank you for joining us on our weekday reflection. What we try to do on these weekday reflections is, in a few minutes, just have an overview of some theme or some aspect of life as a Christian. And we know all of the activities of the world. We read the newspapers and we know what's going on throughout the Middle East especially. And we're concerned, we're very concerned with our sisters and brothers throughout the Middle East, Muslim and Catholic and Christian of all denominations. We reflected recently that His Holiness, Pope Francis, in reference to, and I'm not going to use any names of particular groups, I'm not here to advertise them, but people who are persecuting innocent people in the Middle East, especially in northern Iraq, they need to be stopped, is what the Pope said. And he did not say war, he did not say bombs, he said they need to be stopped. And that's very interesting because, of course, he's teaching us the whole idea of sanctity of life, but also respecting life as a legitimate defense. So with that in mind, I decided today to use two concepts. One, a character, a saint, Saint Maximilian Kolbe, who in 1939, when the Nazis overran Poland, arrested him, and arrested him again in 1941. In Auschwitz, he was brought, and of course there he suffered. He was starving, and when he was going practically to the gallows, one day he saw another man going with him, and he shouted to the commandant, "Take me instead of this man." And the commandant said, "Who are you?" And he didn't give his name. He was Maximilian Kolbe. He was a priest. And they took him instead. They put him in a darkened chamber where eventually they came in and gave him a shot of acid, and he died. He died as a martyr and was beatified in 1971 and canonized in 1982 by, of course, John Paul II, who was also of Polish origin. He gave his life, but his whole ministry was defense of life and the fighting against religious indifference, not caring. Now we are at the brink in the world now of some strange event with the advance of the people who are persecuting and martyring and decapitating so many innocent people in northern Iraq. And what does the church have to say about that? So what I did was I used the Catechism of the Catholic Church, just for a few quotes, to let us understand what legitimate defense is all about. Because we are pacifists. Jesus was a pacifist, no fighting. But there's a line of legitimate defense. Legitimate defense is defined as the legitimate defense of persons in society is not an exception to the prohibition against murder of the innocent that constitutes intentional killing. The act of self-defense can have a double effect: the preservation of one's own life and the killing of the aggressor. The one is intended, the other is not. Love, therefore, toward oneself remains a fundamental principle of morality. Therefore, it is legitimate to insist on respect for one's own right to life. Someone who defends his life is not guilty of murder, even if he is forced to deal with the aggressor with a lethal blow. And from St. Thomas Aquinas, if a person is in self-defense and he uses more than necessary violence, it will be an unlawful action. Whereas if he repels force with moderation, his defense will be lawful. Nor is it necessary for salvation that a man omit the act of moderation self-defense to avoid killing the other man, since one is bound to take more care of one's own life than of another. The defense of the common good requires that an unjust aggressor be rendered unable to cause harm. For this reason, those who legitimately hold authority also have the right to use arms to repel aggressors against the civil community entrusted to their responsibility. Need I say more? We as Christians are pacifists. We believe in peace. We believe in loving one's neighbor. But we also think of the higher good, and the higher good is that each of us needs to defend ourselves. You can't love another person unless you love yourself. And I always think of traveling on the airlines when the steward or stewardess gives instructions as to how to maintain ourselves and our behaviors in case there's an emergency. And they often say that a mask will drop down from the ceiling, and we're supposed to put the masks on. And if there's anyone who's dependent traveling with us, a child or a senior or someone who needs us and is dependent upon us, we should put the masks on first and then assist them. Basic rule. So we need to respect ourselves. Now, as far as governments are concerned, as far as the United Nations are concerned, as far as members who are our allies are concerned, we need to defend the rights of those who are being persecuted. We have the means, we need to stop them. And as Francis encourages us, it doesn't mean bombs, it doesn't mean torture, it doesn't mean anything overt, but it means using everything within our arsenals to protect and defend the rights of those who are suffering throughout the world, and especially in this case in the Middle East, and sections of Africa, and sections, and you know where they are. This is a difficult topic, but we have a legitimate right to defend ourselves, and I hope our governments acting in cohort, in cooperation with one another, and our enemies all come together at the table of peace. This has been Father Louis Skirty with Friends of the Word. Thank you for joining us.